Welcome everybody, I'm John Wally and we are on episode 6 of our web server build out. Today we're going to be doing some firewall setup and creating some automated blocking through IP tables through a product called Fail2Ban. So why don't we go ahead and jump in? Alright, so let's get logged in. So as always, one of the first things we're going to do is just update our system. So I'll say sudo apt update and just check to see if we have any updates to install. All right, it looks like all of our packages are up to date, so we can go ahead and move forward. I'm going to be doing a good bit, so I'm going to go ahead and upgrade my prompt to root. So I'm going to say sudo bash, and we're good to go. So the first thing we want to do is install UFW, and UFW is uncomplicated firewall. It still works with IP tables like normal Linux systems do, but the difference is here is that it's a little bit easier to work with. Now, UFW is kind of a pain sometimes because it creates a bunch of rules for you as a user in the very beginning. So what we got to do is realize that there's a lot of rules out there that we don't see when we're using UFW, where we will see them with IP tables. But as a beginner, especially if you're trying to build your own web server just for your own business purposes and you want it to be affordable, that's kind of the idea. So UFW works perfect for this scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and install that. So I'm going to say apt install, and then we're just going to say UFW. Now, later versions of Ubuntu 18.04 I think already comes with this, but we're just going to make sure, and if you go through this install process, great. If it's already installed, no harm, no foul here either. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and you'll see in mine it says, hey, it's already installed. So we're good to go on that, and we can start configuring. So the way that we do this is we're going to say UFW, and you have to be sudoed to do this, or you have to be a root user to do this. And we're going to say allow, because we want to allow something, and we're going to allow SSH. Now we could say port 22, or we could say, but SSH, it realizes what that service is, so we're going to do that. And you'll see that actually two rules were updated. There was one for regular IP version 4 and one for version 6. That's what that means. So let's add a few more. We're going to say UFW allow HTTP, which is our web traffic. And we're going to say UFW allow HTTPS. Now, I know we're not using HTTPS at this time, but we will be in the near future when we install our certificates. So I'm just getting us ready to kind of move down that path. So now that we have these all installed, I can say UFW, and then we can enable our firewall. Now, you're going to get a message in here that you see right now that says, do you want to proceed? Because this may disrupt our SSH connection. Sometimes this does and sometimes it doesn't. As long as you make sure you've added the rule to allow SSH, you should be completely fine. So we're just going to say yes. If it disconnects you, then all you got to do is reconnect with SSH and you'll be ready to go. So now we can see that we're connected and it looks like our firewall is running. So we can say UFW and we can ask it for a status, and it should tell us that what we're protecting against. So now you'll see that we're allowing port 22, port 80, port 443 across IPv6 and IPv4. So we're all set and ready to go. Our firewall is running, it's up and going, and we're still SSH'd in. So it's good to go. Our firewall is good to go. Now, what will happen a lot of times when we're on the web and we're directly connected and we're not behind any kind of firewall, which is basically what's going to be happening here, especially if you're hosting with some company, it's just raw and out there for the most part. So what we want to do is put some extra protections in. There's a product out there called Fail2Ban that will create dynamic rules and IP tables, which is what UFW runs on as well. So it'll create rules to block IP addresses that are attacking you on a temporary basis. And the default's like 10 minutes, but that can be changed. So let's install that so that we can have this dynamic kind of intrusion prevention system running at least on a host level. So I'm going to say apt install, and it's fail and the number 2 and ban. All right, and we'll say yes. All right, so we are installed. So we're going to have to make a few configuration changes here before it's completely up and ready. So we're going to go over, we're going to cd to etc/fail2ban. And if you look, there's several things in here. You have filters and actions and jails, and what in the world is a jail.conf? Well, what this does is it tells the system what to do based on the protocol, the filtering, and what actions to take. So there's a jail.conf, and a lot of people will make the mistake of changing the configuration of jail.conf, and then all of a sudden their system stops working after an update. So what we're going to do is create a new file. So I'm going to do this with Vim, but you could touch it, or you could do VI, or you could do Nano. It doesn't matter how you do it. And well, actually, before we do that, so I was going to copy it over, but decided not to. We'll create one from scratch. So we'll say jail, and then we're going to call it .local. And so the system knows, Fail2Ban knows if there's a local file to read that as it reads the regular jail.conf, and it will overwrite any of the jail.conf with the local file. So that way when we get an update, jail.conf may be changed or in some way, but our local system still knows what we want. So we're going to go ahead in here and we'll edit this empty file. So one of the first things we want to tell it is that we're doing SSHD as a service. And we're going to say enabled, and we're going to say equals true. All right, so what that's telling our system is that now we want to start filtering on SSHD. So that helps us just to begin with. Now the next thing we want to do is tell it what port that we want to do this on. So we're going to say enable. I'm sorry, not enable again. We're going to say port. There we go. My brain's not working today. And we're going to say port 22 because that's what SSH is on. And then we're going to tell it how do we want it to filter. So we're going to say filter. And there's already a file that filters for SSH traffic called SSHD, which is the service. We got to tell it where we want it to look to create and compare the rule to that we're filtering on. So for SSH, that is in our var log auth.log log file. If you were doing this for WordPress or something like that, it would be under Apache and it'd be the access.log file. So depending on the protocol and the service, your logs may be in different places. But for now, we're just focused on SSH. So we're going to say log path equals, and then we're going to say var logs, because that's where all of our logs are, or log, not logs. And then we're going to say auth.log. All right. So the last thing I'm going to do is the default setting is usually 5 for the max retries. And I don't like that. I want to set that to something different than what my regular jail.config says. So I want it to do a retry and the max to be 3. And after 3, you're done and it locks out. Now the default is to lock it out for 10 minutes. Personally, I keep it there. Nobody's going to ever DOS my machine by trying to log in 3 times and then being banned for 10 minutes and then do it again for 10 minutes. Now they still could like hit my machine every 11th minute, but it would take a really long time to brute force my system once every 10 minutes. 1 try every 10 minutes or 3 tries every 10 minutes. So the reason why is if I ever fat finger or have my cap locks on, or if I don't get in, I'll be banned and then I can't work on my system. I'd prefer not to be down more than about 10 minutes, and that's usually pretty safe. So let's go ahead and save this off. And then we have to go in and reboot our system. Now you don't have to completely do it. You could restart Apache and restart WordPress and restart Fail2Ban. I just reboot. I know there's going to be a lot of people in comments saying, you could just restart those systems. I know. It's a light system. This is easier to just reboot for me. So I'm going to say reboot. And when it comes back up, I'll fast forward and we'll be at our command prompt. All right, we're back up. So let's take a look and see if our system's actually running. Now, one of the ways that we can do this, we can say Fail2Ban, and then we can say client, and then we can say, what is our status? And what you'll see is we have one jail, and that's for SSH, and you can see what that list is, it's SSH. Now, if we had other ones, that would work too, and it would say like SSH and Apache and WordPress and many others that you could put into Fail2Ban, but for now, like I said, we're just doing SSH. So we know this is up and running. We can do UFW and make sure that it's started up the right way too. So we're gonna say status. And it looks like that's active as well. We're logged in, we're working, we have our firewall running, and we have Fail2Ban running. So let's see what this would look like. So if somebody was trying to log in remotely, how would that look? How would we know whether or not they were getting banned or not? So if we look right here, I'm going to try to log in with my same user. And I'm going to miss my password once, and I'm going to miss it twice. I'm going to miss it 3 times. And so what you'll see is there's all of these different logins. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not able to go any further. I'm not able to log in anymore. So if I disconnect and reconnect here, so I have a new one. And let's say I'm trying as Fred this time. What you'll see is I'm not getting any response. It's not letting me log in. So I can try it again. Let's try again. And now you'll see I can't even get a prompt. And why is that? So it's saying, nope, you've made it past your 3. I'm not letting you in. And so it took a few minutes. It looked like it was more than 3 because I was doing it so fast, but it eventually completely locked me out. So let's jump over to our virtual machine real quick, and we'll take a look at what had actually happened on the system, because I can still log on locally, just not remotely anymore. All right, now that I'm on the actual virtual machine that's running, let's take a look. So if I log in here, I can actually look at my status. So I'm going to say sudo Fail2Ban client status. And what you'll see is there's my jails and it's actually working. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say for SSHD. And what you'll see is now it says currently banned. There's one person banned, and that is on 10.1.0.110. So you'll see that it actually banned us. Now in 10 minutes, what it'll do is it'll actually go to currently banned 0. It'll still talk about our failed, and it goes to that, but it'll release this ban from our IP address. Congratulations, everybody. We finally have a firewall set up, and it's actually an intrusion prevention system, at least a host-based one, so that it comes back and says, hey, somebody's doing something malicious on port 22, and it automatically sets up firewalls for us. So again, I want to thank you guys for joining us on this journey and being a part of this series. If you could, leave comments below if you want to see how to add other things to UFW or to our Fail2Ban, or just other things about web and business. I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell, and every time we release another video in this series or other things about business and how to build the business aspects for a micro business, it'll be there. So thank you again, and I will see you guys in a couple of days.